Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this show, A Mexican Crossing Lines, with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight is a show dedicated to giving you all of the updates on what is happening right now in Mexico. In particular, we will be covering the LeBaron funerals and investigations ongoing into the deaths of the family members in the massacres that occurred in Chihuahua and Sonora, in between the two states. Mm-hmm. Also, we will talk about President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, asking for the LeBaron family to forgive the murders and the LeBaron family's reaction to that request. As well, over the weekend, Evo Morales resigned as president of Bolivia. Today, we're going to bring you updates on what is happening as Marcelo Ebrard, the chancellor, which is the he's called the chancellor, but he's foreign affairs
kind of like
Secretary of State, yeah. He would be like the Mike Pompeo of Mexico.
Okay.
He announced in a press conference that AMLO had granted political asylum to Evo Morales. And there is a rally that is happening outside of the Mexican embassy, the Bolivian embassy in Mexico City, where many are standing outside of the embassy to protest what they consider to be a coup d'etat. We will be discussing whether this was a hostile takeover of the country, and if so, by whom. And we will also talk about what the United States, and specifically the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has said about the ousting or the, I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it. The
coup d'etat, possibly, of Evo Morales in Bolivia. And the fact that Mexico's response has been to recognize Morales as the president of Bolivia still and until the end of his term. All of that will be discussed on tonight's show here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. But first, I want to thank all of you who sent me information. I have some great upcoming shows. We will be doing another show on what is happening in Puerto Rico coming up this week. We also have started a new programming, which is the Crazy Libertarian, airing on, is it Wednesday mornings in the Fargo Moorhead metro area?
8 o'clock Wednesday morning.
Taping of that takes place here in the studios tomorrow, as well as a new syndicated program about money. What's that one called, Duke?
Money-Making Conversations.
We have a new program.
Russian McDonald.
Yes. Money-Making Conversations. That airs on
7 to 9 on Saturdays on the air here in Fargo Moorhead and KPPP LP 88.1.
Yes, lots of new programming for the Fargo Moorhead metro area to enjoy, as well as for our friends and listeners in the social media world. Welcome to all of you wherever you may be listening to our programming from. Y saludos a todos los que están en México. Much love to all of our Spanish-speaking audience. We will be bringing you more reporting from Mexico as well. But I also want to let folks know that we have upcoming shows that will be delving back into the connection between the climate change and the climate change activists and the Native American activists that brought you Standing Rock in our future programs. For now, however, I want to thank all of you who have sent me material, including all of the messages and posts and stuff that we received over the weekend. Thanks to all of you. Duke will now let you know how you can follow us on social media, contact us. We just collected a lot of our voice messages we hadn't been able to get to.
That's right. Our voicemail was out of commission for a little bit, but it is back and running. So if you want to give us a call and leave a message on our message line at 701-566-0917. It's working now, so we'll actually be able to receive your messages. We may play them on the air, or if you just want to just give us something and let us hear your sweet voice. If not, you can always do email. Cindy at kpppfm.com and me, Duke at kpppfm.com. You can also, we can find us on Facebook at 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead, that is, the People's Press Project of Mexi-Can. You can also tweet us at media_PPP, and you can follow Cindy's public page by going to at Cindy Gomez-Schempp. And another thing that we'd like you to check out is check out our YouTube channel. We're doing live streams a couple times a week on YouTube also. That channel is Duke1517, and it resolves as Duke Gomez-Schempp, but just type in Duke1517. That's actually the channel's name. You can find us there, and we do lives and super chats on there. All of our Facebook Live shows also get uploaded to YouTube. So you have two places you can actually watch a show if you missed it. If you missed it live on Facebook, or you can't find it because it's been pushed down with the post, you can find it on YouTube at Duke1517. Also, we have a website, kpppfm.com. Now, that's the site where we take the podcasts, and sometimes we do audio podcasts and include those on a page or maybe a little more information. It's another place you can go watch for information and also comment. You can comment on any page and any post that's there. And also, we are, if you go to kpppfm.com, you can also look at how you can support us. We're a non-profit, non-commercial radio station, low-power FM in Fargo Moorhead. We reach close to 200,000 people, and people in this community really enjoy our programming. We've been doing the Facebook Lives and the YouTube Lives, and that's for a larger international audience, reaches many more people, but the local radio station is here in Fargo Moorhead. If you'd like to support our work, go to kpppfm.com/donate, make a tax-deductible donation. You'll get a tax receipt at the end of the year, beginning of the year, and you can support us. Also, if you'd like to promote a business, we can do what's called underwriting. I'd like to thank this underwriter. It's PalomaForTrump.com. It's Paloma, 4, Trump.com. Make my life great again. If you'd like to support us through an underwriting donation, you can contact us too through our website at kpppfm.com/donate. And read over the materials there. Is basically you make a tax-deductible donation, and we mention your business on the air for making a donation. You can check out those things and support us. And thank you all for all the work you have done, the support that people have given us over the years. All your contributions are very appreciated. All the information you send our way is very much appreciated. We go through all of it. We may not get to it right away, but you are heard when you contact us.
And I want to also thank everyone who watches our cooking shows, our cooking videos. We did one over the weekend.
Yes, albondigas, which I will have one after the show because they're so yummy.
So what would y'all do on the weekend? I heard it was a crazy weekend for some folks. Oh, yeah. Lots of people sent me some videos of some crazy drama nonsense that was going on.
I see.
Over this weekend. And, I think, all things come to their logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Is all I have to say about that. Lots of things going on, lots of craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that this also, what happened over the weekend should answer a lot of questions that people had about people making demands about who I have on my show and when. I think that what's happened over the weekend should speak volumes as to my judgment call on how I present evidence and how I do my shows.
Yep, exactly.
So, talking about what is going on in Mexico, very, very delicate situation. with the investigation of LeBaron. The LeBaron family funerals were taking place over the weekend. Some family members are being buried in one location while others are going to be buried at different cities and different locations. So very, very painful weekend for the LeBaron family. Many people traveling as far as, from North Dakota in the United States, various different states, all the way to Mexico for this funeral. And the LeBaron family is still extremely upset. Let me bring you some of the updated reports on what is happening with those funerals and the ongoing investigations. Here's one of the reports from Mexico.
El Via Crucis de la familia LeBaron no termina. Ayer, en medio de la caravana que los llevaría.
The Via Crucis is like the Stations of the Cross. So basically, the suffering of the family LeBaron does not end. Yesterday, while they were traveling in a caravan to the funerals
Al funeral de los bebés, de los niños y de las mujeres asesinadas.
Of the women, children, and people that were murdered in the massacre,
Fueron detenidos en el lugar de los hechos.
Were detained in the location where the events took place,
Para hacerles una inspección. En la
so that they could be inspected.
zona de la tragedia estuvo el enviado especial de Noticieros Televisa, Francisco Javier Carmona.
A reporter was at the location doing a report.
Este miércoles, integrantes de la familia LeBaron salieron en caravana desde los municipios de Nuevo Casas Grandes y Galeana, Chihuahua, hasta...
The family members of the LeBaron family left to the two towns mentioned in the report in a caravan.
Bavispe, Sonora, para preparar los funerales de los 9 integrantes de la comunidad mormón.
To Bavispe to prepare, to prepare for the funerals of their family members.
Que fueron asesinados el pasado lunes en una brecha de la comunidad.
That were murdered last Monday in a stretch of the road.
La Mora, en el municipio serrano de Bavispe.
On the road to La Mora in the municipality of Bavispe.
En el noreste del estado de Sonora, en los límites.
In the northeast of the state of Sonora and at the limits.
Con Chihuahua.
At the limits or at the front, at the border with the state of Chihuahua.
Luego de horas de andar por caminos de terracería desde la comunidad de Francisco Villa, Chihuahua.
After hours of being on gravel roads,
los integrantes de la familia LeBaron fueron frenados por la Policía Estatal de Sonora.
The members of the family were detained to be inspected on the road.
Sonora, justo en el lugar donde fueron asesinados 4 de sus familiares.
Exactly at the location where 4 of their family members were assassinated.
Porque apenas hasta este miércoles, peritos de la Agencia Ministerial de Investigación.
Because until this Wednesday, they began doing the investigations from the ministerial offices of
Criminal de la Fiscalía de Sonora,
the DA's office from the state of Sonora.
Comenzaron a levantar los peritajes y análisis de balística en la escena del multihomicidio.
This is in the scene of the assassination. They began doing their investigations and ballistic analysis.
Los peritos revisaron 2 de las camionetas en que viajaban 2 de las familias de LeBaron.
They were investigating 2 of the vehicles, of the LeBaron vehicles that were shot up.
Y donde fueron asesinadas 4 personas.
And the location where 4 people were murdered.
Desde lo alto de la montaña, Marcial LeBaron observó junto con su familia.
From on top of the hill, Marcial LeBaron observed along with his family
los trabajos de la fiscalía.
The work being done by the DA's office.
Es la catástrofe más fea que hemos tenido en el aspecto.
This is the worst catastrophe we have had in the aspect of
puros mujeres y niños
this being only women and children,
son los que totalmente inculpables y ellos
they're totally innocent.
murieron porque la gente se pelea por las drogas.
And they died because people fight over drugs.
Mejor que se mueran los que quieran comerse las drogas.
I prefer for the people that take drugs to die.
Este es un camino vecinal que comunica Francisco Villa, Chihuahua con Bavispe,
This is a road that connects Bavispe to
Sonora, y llega primero a la comunidad de San Miguel. Y es
and
precisamente aquí
goes through San Miguel.
donde un grupo criminal disparó contra
And this is exactly where the location where a group of criminals shot upon
la familia LeBaron, matando a 9 de ellos.
the LeBaron family, killing 9 of them.
Y permítame mostrarle cómo se encuentra esta zona,
If you'll permit me to show you what this area looks like, it is completely devoid of any housing or people,
totalmente despoblada, donde en este
unpopulated,
momento peritos de criminalística están levantando evidencias
where currently criminal investigators are collecting evidence
en 2 de los vehículos en los que viajaban estas familias.
from all the vehicles in which these people were traveling. These families were traveling.
Pero sí es evidente que es una zona despoblada, un camino que no tiene vigilancia.
This is a totally unpopulated area on a road that has no security,
Y ya es territorio de Sonora.
and
Al
it is
lugar
in
llegó
Sonora.
la Procuradora de Justicia de Sonora,
Claudia, the DA from Sonora, was present
Irina Contreras, para supervisar los trabajos de investigación.
to supervise the investigation process.
Toda mi condolencia y solidaridad con las familias.
I give my condolences and my solidarity to the families.
Estuve ahorita ya con el equipo de trabajo, con ministerios públicos y peritos.
I was with the public ministry and the investigators.
Pude recorrer efectivamente las áreas en las que ocurrieron los hechos, donde estuvieron
I covered the areas where the incidents occurred.
cada uno de los vehículos que fueron impactados. Estuve
I've looked at all the vehicles that were impacted.
checando también la forma, la trayectoria, dónde quedaron estos
I was also investigating the trajectory of the bullets.
impactos.
La Procuradora de Justicia de Sonora informó que la Fiscalía General de la República se sumó a las investigaciones con peritos especializados en explosivos.
The DA also said that they had assistance from investigators that are specialists in explosives.
En tanto, la familia LeBaron alista los detalles para iniciar los servicios funerarios de sus 9 familiares.
Meanwhile, the LeBaron family began preparing for the funeral services of their 9 slain family members,
Que serán sepultados en Sonora y Chihuahua a partir de este jueves.
who will be buried in Sonora and in Chihuahua beginning on Thursday.
En Bavispe, Sonora, Francisco Javier Carmona, Noticieros Televisa.
Reporting from Bavispe, Sonora. So, these investigations are just now taking place. You see that the area in which the massacres occurred is very rural, very remote. There is nobody and nothing out there. And if you recall, Julian LeBaron, one of the spokespeople that has been talking a lot with the media in Mexico, said that he felt that the slow response of the authorities to get out there when the massacres happened, to provide assistance, to provide air support, to look for other family members when they were still missing, and now to do these investigations where they were even leading the investigators out there. They were first people on the scene because the investigators in the local authorities didn't know the roads.
Exactly, and I really appreciate that newscast where it shows the rural area because it gives me a better idea of what they were talking about. It was so remote, and so out on the sides of mountains through all those forests. That now I get the idea. Now I see that why it was why people took so long for their response time, and also get an idea what the environment was like where this happened.
And you can also see from up on the hill that they were talking about someone was looking down on the vehicles from up on a hill, and he got a family member standing up on the hill.
Exactly.
Showing you what that looks like and how they have a clear line of sight to the vehicles passing on this stretch of road.
Yeah.
Well, members of the family of LeBaron, such as Eric LeBaron, have been posting about funeral arrangements and other stories. And in this post from one of the LeBaron family members, you see that they had on their page a news report about the funeral, which includes the headlines that the president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, requested that the LeBaron family forgive the assassins, as if that were even something, that you could ask people to do. Well, frequently that occurs. When we had the massacres at synagogues, at churches, at different places that occurred here, which were obviously, very similar to these horrific attacks in which innocent people lost their lives. There is some upset on the part of a lot of people as to whether or not the victims and the families of the victims say that they forgive the killers.
Yeah, well, it's a tough thing, for you to be asked to have forgiveness when you haven't even mourned the loss of people who were murdered. It's a tough call, but I understand a community wants to grow and to move, and, it's not bad that we should forgive. But it's like that at this point when they haven't even explored all the details and the evidence and came up with a story of what has happened, to ask for forgiveness when you don't even know who you're forgiving.
Well, this is an even more volatile situation, Duke, because it involves Mexican Americans, Mormons, which of course are from the majority religion, even though many people, since I was a little kid, have started to convert to other religions, such as Mormons, such as, other, Christian religions and even Muslim religions. But primarily, Mexico is a Catholic country.
Yeah.
And primarily, Mexico is, there is a diversity, but it's a pretty homogenous Mexicans for Mexico type of a place. It just is. That's the way that the country has been. So, the LeBaron family are Mexicans for sure. They've been there for over 100 years. They've been established as a family in the area. And a lot of people have been speculating over the weekend that the LeBaron family is, they're forced to evacuate. They're being forced to leave their beloved, farms in Mexico because of the extreme violence that people are experiencing there. But the truth is, even though you've seen reports where probably some family members are leaving, the LeBarons are there to stay. Their community is much larger than just the town of LeBaron and Galeana and La Mora, or their ranches or their farms. This is a community that is well established, and they have said they will not leave, which begs the question, why are some people leaving? I can't tell you exactly what will come to pass, but I am reading the signs and I am looking at what the responses are from family members, from spokespeople from the LeBaron family. Here is the video clip from that news story where a reporter mentions that the president of Mexico has asked the family to forgive these murders, and this was the response of one of the Mr. Miller, one of the LeBaron family relatives. Quite shocking.
El funeral de Ronita y sus 4 hijos fue por la
Ronita and her 4 children's funeral took place in the afternoon.
tarde. En el ataque a su camioneta nadie sobrevivió.
The attack on her vehicle, no one survived the attack on her vehicle.
Nosotros debemos de salir de la muerte de Ronita, de Dana y de Cristina y sus...
We have to come out of these deaths of Ronita, Donna, and Christina and their children.
Hijos más fuertes, más listos.
We need to be strong. We have to come out of it stronger and smarter.
Si no, voy a sentir que la muerte de ellos...
If not, I will feel that their deaths
Y estos asesinatos trágicos no tuvieron razón.
and that these tragic deaths were senseless and had no meaning.
Los restos de Ronita, sus 4 hijos y Cristina, la 9ª víctima que murió cuando pedía los
The remains of Ronita and her children, as well as Christina, who died after begging for her life,
sicarios que no dispararan, serán trasladados mañana a la colonia de los LeBaron en Galeana, Chihuahua.
they'll be transported to Galeana in the state of Chihuahua tomorrow.
Serán sepultados el sábado.
And they will be buried on Saturday. The president of Mexico says that you need to forgive. He is 100% incorrect. After forgiving them, they will just do the same thing. It's like a monster that has no salvation. And then he makes the sign of cutting the throat. In fact, I want you to go back a little bit on this recording and show a little bit more, a little bit further. Yeah, he says it's like a monster that has no remedy. The people that committed this atrocity. He, in response to the president saying that they need to forgive, he says it's 100. That's 100% incorrect. These are monsters that have no remedy. And then this member of the family named Pablo Miller makes the sign of cutting his throat, and he says, "We have to finish them." Finish them, he says. That's it. So, Duke, those were fighting words.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think that, the concern of the president, the concern of everyone in Mexico is for a bloodbath to not have to ensue as a result of these killings. That there will not be further loss of life. That there will not be some kind of a war that escalates out of this violence. And it is a legitimate concern. You don't want, and this is a very touchy subject, a very heated situation. People are very upset. Children and women were incinerated. Babies were murdered. This is not a normal, everyday story. And in addition to the tragedy, we have the fact that these are Mexican Americans asking for U.S. intervention, a topic which Mexico does not want to open.
Yep, definitely.
They don't want that.
And the FBI actually is taking some interest is working with the Mexican government because, again, it involves United States citizens. It's very complex politically and policy-wise, but also, horrendous crime has happened, and there has to be an investigation. There has to be, a report. There has to be understanding what happened and who was involved.
But ultimately, it's Mexico. This is not the United States. This didn't happen in El Paso. This didn't happen in New Jersey. This happened in Mexico. And Mexicans have been living with cartel and narco violence for decades, for a very long time. How past presidents have dealt with narco violence, whether it's an all-out war against the narco government as President Calderon waged, or the hugs not bullets approach of AMLO, it is still a decision that is for Mexicans in Mexico to make. And we have to respect the sovereignty of other nations as they make these decisions. Interestingly, there is, a lot of concern over how Mexico will handle cartel violence. But as I said in my previous show, you cannot be sure, because investigations have not yet been concluded, you cannot be sure that the tragedy that occurred at the hands of a specific cartel, Cartel A or Cartel B. Sources in Mexico indicate this could be a paramilitary attack, like a guns for hire attack on this particular family, and it was not a cartel. Some sources indicate that that is what actually occurred. And I would also argue that, as Julian LeBaron stated in an interview he did after his brother Benjamin was murdered, and during the presidency of Calderon, where a war was waged against organized crime, resulting in more deaths in Mexico than in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq combined.
Wow.
He said, Julian LeBaron, the same man that has been a spokesperson, a very outspoken spokesperson about these tragic murders, said he did not appreciate the war that was waged against cartels. In fact, he stated in an interview on my show, The Complicated History of the LeBarons, he stated, and I translated for all my listeners, that he believes that there is no difference between someone, a farmer growing tobacco and a farmer growing marijuana or any other type of drug, because he said that ignoring the root causes of poverty and of why people traffic drugs or sell drugs is important in the war against this kind of violence in Mexico. So he feels that the direct confrontation and attack on cartels in Mexico during the administration of Calderon resulted in more bloodshed and resulted in more bad than in good. How this is handled is going to be very difficult and delicate. And so the reaction from family members to this massacre is very important. I don't know how Julian LeBaron feels today. Maybe today he has changed his mind about it. Some of his family members obviously feel that even those who consume drugs would be better off dead rather than their family members. Because you heard that man saying in the report, member of the LeBaron family, that their family members died because people fight over drugs. He's talking about the cartels, but he's talking in terms of drug use and consumption as well. And I think it would be reticent of me not to mention the fact that What drives the cartels and the narco trafficking is the consumption, the massive quantities of consumption of drugs from the United States.
Yep, exactly.
The majority of the weapons used by the cartels in Mexico are smuggled in from the U.S. They come from the U.S., and the demand for the drugs comes from the U.S. That has to be factored in to the solution. That has to be factored in to the discussion of the problem. Because it is not a one-sided discussion, nor is it a one-sided solution.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know. We hear from one of these family members that they prefer for the people that consume drugs to die. Meanwhile, in the U.S., we have an opioid epidemic where, indeed, people are dying all of the time. The sale and distribution of drugs in the United States to ensure the continued business of the narco traffickers in Mexico is not in any way stymied or stopped. That is part and parcel of what drives this business and this, unfortunately, this crime, these tragedies. It's something else that needs to be discussed.
Yep.
And finally, you see that I don't know what to make of what that man said, but usually when people are cutting throats, they're talking about murder.
Yep, talking about assassination, death. Exactly.
He said, I'm not going to apologize. He said, apologize or forgive. I'm not going to forgive them. He said, forgiving those monsters who have no remedy. There's no saving them. They have no redeeming qualities. Some of the other family members have called them animals and said they have no mothers. These are not considered humans anymore. They need to be offed. That is scary. Maybe that's why some of the family members are leaving. Maybe they're preparing for war.
Yeah.
Maybe they're taking their family members to safety. I don't know what to tell you, but I can tell you what I see does not look good. What are your thoughts on this, dude?
Yeah, it's like you said, it comes back to the remedies and also the resistance to help. And also digging into everybody's past and kind of portraying people and who they are and their history and stuff without focusing on the facts of a horrendous murder. And yeah, I would be scared. I'd be scared if I was down there in those remote areas or, living in the towns they've developed when this sort of thing happened to some of my family members, even though in your show the other night you said there's at least 5,000 LeBaron family members in Mexico. So it's that's half the size of, a mid-sized town in the Midwest. It's a lot of people. And so what they're doing in response, I'm sure, and there's probably a lot of opinions, and they have their leadership and stuff. So, but when you see someone reacting like this, they're very angry. They want revenge. They want something done. And it's like, it's between two countries. It's very, very complicated. And also, just what's going to be done. Regardless of everybody's history, something bad happened and someone needs to be held accountable for that. And they can't just skip over it, and pretend they got some people when those people didn't do it. They've got to get to the bottom of it.
And there's more clues. These are all opinions that we are forming, Duke and I are forming, along with you, our listeners and viewers, based on the signs, based on the words, based on the reports that we hear coming out of Mexico and the LeBaron family themselves. In this post from another family member, Travis LeBaron, we see a news report including Julian LeBaron speaking, and it tells about the complicated history of the LeBaron family in Mexico, as well as discussing the current massacres and what they plan to do in response. And despite the reports that you have heard saying that the family members will be evacuating, that hundreds of family members are leaving, this clip from the news report shows very clearly the LeBarones are in Mexico to stay. This is their claim to the land, and they ain't going nowheres. Take a listen.
Que no se irán de Chihuahua y continuarán
The family assures that it will not leave the state of Chihuahua.
con la siembra de toneladas de nuez que son exportadas a Estados Unidos.
And that they will continue to produce tons of nuts, which are exported to the United States.
Si las autoridades no garantizan seguridad, pensarán en formar grupos de autodefensa.
If the government of Mexico cannot provide them security, then they will form their own militias.
Es un absoluto no. Lo vamos a enfrentar a como dé lugar.
It's an absolute no for us. We will confront this by any means necessary.
Y llegue donde llegue. Jamás
Wherever that may take us.
nos vamos a asumir como víctimas.
We will never assume the role as victims.
Les damos todo el beneficio a la autoridad para que lo haga.
We give all of the benefit to the authorities for them to do it.
Pero en último momento, si no lo hacen, vamos a buscar cómo hacerlo nosotros mismos.
But in the end of the day, if they don't do it, then we will find a way to do it ourselves. And that last person speaking, of course, was Julián LeBaron. And, you know,
Realización Alexander de Villa, Gustavo Sánchez camarógrafo, Ana Lucía Hernández
just naming all the reporters that did this report. That's it. They have a legacy. They have their farms. They are pecan farmers. They have the sale of the export of nuts is a huge business. But it also involves water and water rights and access to water in a desert. You've heard this story before. You know what happens to people that live in a desert, like in California. Mm-hmm. They don't have no water.
Yep.
And you know that these LeBaron family members went out into the middle of the desert and developed a productive farming community.
Yeah, very successful.
Millions and millions of dollars worth of successful. Mm-hmm. So this is an empire of nuts that is not going anywhere soon.
Yep.
And from what I can tell, in the past, they have taken up arms to protect themselves, and they are threatening to do so once again. Meanwhile, over the weekend, there was
chaos
in Bolivia. The president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, resigned.
Mm-hmm. It's like, how often do presidents quit? You know?
It was a very shocking headline. The president of Bolivia resigns. What would make him resign? Mm-hmm. He's been president since 2006.
Yeah, it's been 13 years.
So, how is he president for so long?
Mm-hmm.
He keeps getting elected and elected and elected. And, you know, countries like Venezuela, countries like Nicaragua, recently, we've seen a lot of turmoil in some of these countries like Honduras that have presidents that have these dictatorships where, like Hugo Chavez, they run a country until somebody tries to take him out of power in a coup. And this is being called a coup d'etat. In this post from Telesur, you see that they put out a video interviewing one of the people of Bolivia who they're saying that Evo Morales was removed as president by force. Supporters of the president of Bolivia are taking to the streets of major cities in the country to express their support for democracy and for the legitimacy of this president. Now, let me just say, the last time Evo Morales was once again elected president of Bolivia, people got upset.
Yeah.
They said there was something wrong with the elections. They contested it. They did not believe that he had won fair and square, and there was something wrong with the election.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, that got even worse. So, in the video I'm about to share with you, we hear from one of the supporters of Evo Morales begging for help from the international community because their president has been removed.
Buenas noches.
Good evening.
Aquí estamos en la ciudad del Alto.
Here we are in the city of Height, it's called.
Quiero denunciar a la comunidad internacional,
I want to make a report to the international community
a derechos humanos, que este golpe, la logia
and human rights organizations that this coup d'etat that the Lodge of Bolivia
de pueblo de Bolivia ha preparado contra Evo, contra el pueblo oprimido.
has prepared against Evo Morales and against the oppressed people of Bolivia.
Contra este pueblo sufrido, Evo ha sido gobierno de los
That is a government of people that are suffering.
pobres. Ahora están en camino
Governed by Evo is a people that are poor. And now this coup d'etat,
con un golpe de estado. Yo soy madre de familia, tengo hijos y estoy
and now we have this coup d'etat. I am a mother of a family. I have children.
temo por mi vida y por mis hijos, por mi familia.
And I am in fear for my life, for the life of my children, for the life of my family.
Estamos totalmente de miedo, pero al mismo tiempo también
We are completely scared, totally scared, but at the same time,
estamos aquí en el Alto con una lucha, con un coraje. A ver,
we're here in the town of El Alto with a fight in us, with perseverance
si ellos van a ganar o nosotros vamos a ganar.
to see if they're going to win or to see if we're going to win.
Y solo quisiera pedir, todo ya han tomado, ya no los
And I just want to ask, because they've taken everything. They've already taken everything.
canales televisivos bolivianos, ATV, Unitel, canal.
They've already taken all of the television stations, the Bolivian television stations, Unitel. She's naming all the state stations.
Ya no están transmitiendo, ya no están a favor
They are no longer transmitting in favor of the people.
de nosotros, están a favor de la logia de los ricos.
They're transmitting now in favor of the lodge of the rich.
El pueblo está ahorita sufriendo, ya no tenemos voz.
The people of the Bolivia are suffering. We no longer have a voice.
Eso llamo a la comunidad internacional que se pronuncien por este pueblo.
That's why I'm calling on the international community to stand up for our people. We are the real people of Bolivia.
No son el pueblo, dicen que son el pueblo. Ellos son una logia de ricos.
They are not the people. They say that they are the people. She's referring to the people committing this coup d'etat. They are not the people. They represent the lodge. They represent the rich.
Empresarios millonarios.
Entrepreneurs, billionaires.
Que pueden pagar sicarios, que pueden comprar armas.
Those who can hire murderers, mercenaries, and who can buy politicians. They are the authors of this coup d'etat. We ask for the help to the community, the international community. We are the people of Bolivia. They are not the people of Bolivia. Please stand up for the people of Bolivia. So you recall how Evo Morales came to power?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
There's a great documentary film I don't know if it's available on Netflix anymore, called Cocaleros. And Cocaleros tells the story, of how Evo Morales came to power. I'm actually going to drop the name.
Oh, you're going to find it and drop it in?
I'm going to drop the name
great.
of the movie into the comments.
Was that the one where they had the shootout and they were showing the different angles of it and the military coming in and that he was basically held prisoner and then he actually...
No, that you're thinking of Chavez.
Oh, okay.
That's Venezuela. That's a completely different country.
Yes, it is. It is.
I'm talking about Cocaleros.
Okay.
The movie about Evo Morales.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was talking about coca being money.
Coca farmer had gone to presidency, first indigenous.
Coca farmer that became.
Okay, I remember that. Yes.
And they talked about how he, I think it's available on YouTube too, this documentary, but it talks about his, how he, a coca farmer, a coca leaf farmer became the president of Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
And he very much wanted to make coca farmers legal, make coca farming natural. He believed that the people, the only people not really benefiting from the growth of coca leaves were the farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Yet here, coke was being sold and made into a drug that sells for billions of dollars in an industry that has existed for a very long time, that the coca farmers are not benefiting from. So he really decided to take the resources of that economy for his country. Remember how he became the president? So what do you think of the trajectory, Duke, of what's happened with this coca farmer who became a populist president of the people up until this moment?
Actually, I haven't been following him enough, but I remember when he got in and we'd check in and we always going, Evo. We were always happy to see him because he was such an underdog. He was an underdog in the face of, capitalism, and he was going to do so much for the country. But the military plays a big role in the safety, and the way their government works is that the president is at the top. The Congress is actually making all the decisions, really, but the president of that country serves a huge role. It's not like, three, branches of government like the United States has. Their government's kind of like one branch or two, and two equally as strong. I'm not sure what happened in the elections. I know the guys on the policy today were talking about it, and they're talking about things I don't know anything about, but what they were saying, they were talking about some questions on the past two elections and also a move for there to be, you can run as many times as you want, no term limits, So there was that sort of stuff being said. But I don't know what led up to the falling out, the things that weren't working, and having a takeover and having the military basically say, we're not going to protect you, we're not going to support you, which would mean you're gonna die. If you have a bunch of people that are going to just take over the government, and there's that sort of takeover happening, whatever the whole basis of that was and is. So it's like it's dangerous to not have the protection of the military, in your country. So he had to get out of there, and resign and leave.
Here's the thing. Evo Morales, like Maduro's presidency in Venezuela, are very socialist in nature. They appeal to the poorest of the poor. They appeal to the masses. And yes, for a period of time, there was unprecedented growth. As Morales in Bolivia said, our oil is our oil. And we get all of the revenue from the resources. There were several different presidents in several different Latin American countries echoing these types of, kind of take back our country and our resources from being looted by other foreign interests.
Yep, exactly.
And at the same time, they started creating trade agreements. That's amassing economic power as well. So there are varied interests foreign interests outside of those agreements, outside of Latin America, that to varying degrees are happy that power, that the dynamics of the economic trade agreements between some of these countries is breaking down, because it represents opportunities for them. You know, you can have a trade agreement like Canada and the U.S. and Mexico have, and that's a force to be reckoned with. Now you're not talking about one country standing against China or whatever. You're talking about 3 countries that have a trade agreement that gives them economic power against that benefits them before it benefits other countries.
Yeah.
Same thing. And we're talking about countries like Bolivia that have all the cocaine, and oil and many other resources.
Yeah, lots of minerals.
Right. That now are up for grabs, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens when you have a coup like this? And in this case, can we really call it a coup?
Yeah, it hasn't been proven yet.
Well, I think it's difficult to call something a coup if there's no outside force, right?
Right.
Like, don't you have to have an outside?
Yeah, wouldn't that be more like a revolution, or a takeover from within?
But why is the terminology coup being used?
Yeah.
It begs the question, because people are trying to say it's being called a coup. You see the sign behind me.
Oh yeah.
It says no to the coup. This is not this is not a renunciation. So he did not resign. He did not quit his job. This was a coup. No, he resigned.
Yeah, he did resign.
He did resign. Over the weekend. The headlines all said. Or was that the fake news?
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it said he resigned. He said he resigned. And you know, the reports on what happened and how it happened and how he was given political asylum, how he requested political asylum, or whether Mexico offered him a political asylum, all of it is up for question because there is so much conflicting information. I do not even know where to begin.
Yeah.
But here is a video that is this the next one? Oh, I'm sorry. I just got this post from Revista Proceso talks about how the U.S. is weighing in on this issue and saying that, you know, even as the announcement of the resignation of Evo Morales came over the weekend, the United States was starting to weigh in. Figures in the U.S. were starting to weigh in about how, you know, this gives countries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Bolivia a new road, a new path to its leadership. This opens up opportunity for someone else with new blood to come in and lead this nation.
Yeah.
As, you know, looking at it maybe from the silver lining perspective of this is a new opportunity. And here you see this post about President Trump saying that the President of the United States considered Evo Morales' resignation as opening a road for the voice of the Bolivian people to be heard, as if the voices of Bolivian people have up to this point under a presidency of Morales been repressed.
Well, then that would be a revolution, wouldn't it? If the people took over the government for themselves and took it back, well, they'd be shouting revolution. Wouldn't be shouting like a coup. You know, a coup is like a secret takeover. You know, it's a takeover from it's seizing power. So, yeah, I'm a little confused.
The insinuation, folks, for those of you who haven't figured it out, is that there is foreign interests behind this coup.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not saying that out loud, but the fact that they're calling it a coup and not a revolution, and that you have the people of Bolivia begging for the international community to step in and to saying that these are the elites. They call them the lodge or something like that. But she's like, these are the elites. These are the rich. These are not the masses. These are not the majority. These are not the people of Bolivia that are taking over. Well, if it's not the people of Bolivia, who the heck is it? Can you name them?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're asking for help from the international community, who's supposed to? Who are we helping you defend from? Is it the U.S.? Is it the British?
Yeah.
Who's taking over Bolivia? Because it's unclear who they're supposed to be getting assistance from. Mexico grants asylum to Evo Morales. This is the headline.
Oh, boy.
In Mexico, again, I'm not clear on whether or not Mexico offered the asylum to Morales. And he was like, yes, I totally need the asylum. Or if he contacted Mexico, because there is conflicting information. In this headline, it says that Mexico granted him asylum. And that Marcelo Ebrard confirmed that Evo Morales accepted it.
Yeah.
Look what it says. That Evo Morales accepted the invitation from Mexico to receive political asylum. What do you make of that? What is it? An invitation to receive?
It says to me that he was offered it and accepted. It means it was extended to him. And my world history and study of South America isn't very deep. I apologize. I haven't done a lot of research but it's like, I remember presidents leaving office and going in exile, but how often have I heard presidents being granted asylum in a neighboring, in another country, asylum in another country? I don't think I've ever heard of that. And maybe it's happened. You people who study history a lot more, is that something that's happened before in history? Or is this has a different angles, something totally different?
Or a situation where another country calls and says, hey, are you all right? I think you might need some political asylum. So I wanted to invite you to take advantage of our special on asylums right now. We're granting asylums. People from Central America? Yeah, we're not giving asylum to them. They're going to the U.S.
There's no room
but
in the end.
you need to come over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're just wait in line like everyone else,
Right? There's an open invitation from Morales, and he has said yes.
Yeah.
He's going to take the political asylum. In this video, Ebrard actually giving his press conference and giving the reasons why this asylum was extended to him. Listen carefully to the wording being used.
El gobierno mexicano ha decidido otorgar asilo político a Evo Morales.
The Mexican government has decided to grant political asylum to Evo Morales.
Hace unos momentos, el secretario de Relaciones Exteriores, Marcelo Ebrard, dijo la Cancillería.
The Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Marcelo Ebrard, made an announcement just moments ago.
Mexicana ha decidido conceder asilo político a Evo Morales.
That Mexico has decided to grant political asylum to Evo Morales.
Porque peligra su vida. Vamos a escucharlo en vivo.
Because his life is in danger. Let's listen to the Chancellor live.
José Martí o Víctor Raúl Aya de la Torre.
He's giving the names of other people.
El otorgamiento de asilo es un derecho soberano del Estado mexicano.
The granting of political asylum is a sovereign act of the power of the country of Mexico.
Que va acorde con sus principios normativos.
That goes along with its normative principles.
En política exterior.
With regard to foreign affairs.
Para proteger los derechos humanos y respetar la autodeterminación de
to defend human rights and respect the autodetermination of
los pueblos, la solución pacífica de las
the peoples, and in this case of Bolivia,
controversias y la no intervención.
to not intervene in other countries' affairs.
Esta decisión la hemos hecho ya del conocimiento de la Organización de Estados
And to avoid
Americanos.
controversy. We have made this decision knowing the position of other American nations of the Americas.
Lo haremos de la Organización de las Naciones Unidas,
We will do so as well with the knowledge of the United Nations,
invocando, de acuerdo a los tratados y convenciones
invoking the treaties and the agreements, the international agreements between nations,
internacionales, la protección internacional
requiring the international protection
a la vida, la libertad y la integridad
to life, liberty, and the
de Evo Morales.
integrity of Evo Morales.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
So, we don't want to get involved in scandals of other countries, but we're totally getting involved in the scandal in Bolivia. We want to make sure to protect the integrity and the he's saying the country of Bolivia has the right to decide its future, and the people of Bolivia have the right to decide their own future, which is why we believe in non-intervention into the affairs of countries like Bolivia, and we totally don't want drama or, getting, into other countries' businesses, and we want to protect the integrity of Mr. Evo Morales. So we're totally getting involved. And we're totally going to give this guy asylum in our country. And we know what other people in other countries might be thinking, and everything we're doing is in accordance to our agreements and our rights and everything that Mexico has a right to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that announcement was a little sketch.
Yeah.
Like just a little bit like, I know this looks really weird, but we're doing it because we don't want to get involved in other people's business. That's why we're sending a plane to Bolivia right now.
Yes. And we have sovereignty, so we can do whatever we want. We're just going to go pick up a president that was just ousted and is in, we're considering he's in danger because he no longer has the military to protect him. We're bringing him here and giving him asylum. Have a nice day, everyone. Have a good weekend.
During the rest of, this press conference, they asked him what part of the administration of Morales, just Morales.
Yeah, really.
Who's coming?
Yeah, what about all the other people that are part of Congress? Are they all in solid seats, that just Evo is gone and just going to elect a new president and move on with business?
Well, we know for a fact that members of the government of Morales were dragged out of their homes. People were killed. Cats and dogs living together.
Mm-hmm.
All this happened prior to him resigning. The military called on him to resign as to avoid more bloodshed.
Okay.
And that's when he resigned. But the question for the Mexican press was, who's coming? When are they getting here? How many are coming? Who are they? And they've been very tight-lipped. They said, it's bigger than a bread bag.
20 questions.
Right. It's like more than 20 people.
Is it bigger than bread box? Is it animal, vegetable, and mineral?
Right. That's the kind of reporting coming out of Mexico in terms of what's going on with Evo Morales. Very hush-hush. But it's definitely happening. And what we do know is that There are Bolivians coming that are part of this coup. There are Mexicans involved.
Mm-hmm.
Mexicans that are getting asylum. What? Yup. There's a group of people, and it's not all Bolivians, that are coming to get the asylum. Some of those people requested the asylum in person. How? They went to Mexico. Some people went to Mexico already to request the asylum. They're already getting the asylum. They're already in Mexico.
Wow.
And some of them called on the phone to get the asylum, got the request granted, and are headed there now.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, there is a lot of speculation about what this really is, because it's not necessarily a coup, as we have said.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is.
What is it?
In this article by López Doriga Digital, titled Daniel Zovato Analyzes the Complex Situation That Will Be Experienced by Bolivians After the Resignation of Their President. In this article, the analyst, Daniel Zovato, pointed out that what's happened in Bolivia could be called a coup d'etat, which had the same result, which had the result of the of his renunciation to the presidency. So basically, he resigned to the presidency. Although this crisis was auto-generated.
What does that mean?
Generated by self. Generated by Evo and his administration. Self-created, self-managed. So, let me just recap what this analyst said. This could be called a coup d'etat, which resulted in him quitting his job, even though it was all generated by him, by Evo himself, during the last 2 years of his presidency.
I see. He did it to himself.
How do you auto-coup yourself? I'm trying to understand what this means.
It's an auto-coup. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, what? It's like, and he did it to himself, or he's responsible for doing, what is this, a ploy to come back in and be the champion again? I mean, what's going on?
Maybe. In an interview with Joaquin López Doriga on Radio Fórmula, the regional director of the IDEA, which stands for International International for America, Latin America, and the Caribbean, gave a timeline that resulted in Evo Morales quitting as president after the armed forces urged him to do so over the weekend. Quote, I say that this is a coup d'etat. It is a combination of factors. It is an auto-generated crisis. It is the major sin Evo Morales committed by not leaving by not leaving earlier.
Oh.
So he should have quit while he was ahead.
Yeah.
And by not leaving earlier on, he created this discontent.
Yeah.
In his lack of capacity to generate an alternative to his own leadership, in his lack of skill, lack of preparation, basically, to have someone else in the country take over the leadership of the presidency, he becomes one of those presidents that concentrates everything on his person. The president is the sun. Like the sun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once they disappear, these figureheads that are everything deposited into themselves as Evo Morales is accused of doing here. Everything disappears along with them.
It goes dark.
All the system around them collapses. We cannot speak about a true democracy when it was the armed forces that suggested to the president that he had to leave. That was the argument and the quote by this analyst. Sobato suggested that these combination of factors were what really caused Evo Morales to be forced to resigning the presidency of the country that he had been a dictator of for these decade or longer, right?
Exactly.
And he had changed, he'd forced himself onto the Constitution so that he could continue in power in perpetuity.
Okay.
At the time that he became president, after so many years, so long, that the poor and the powerless had not had a populist president that embraced these socialist ideas of, giving everyone a place at the table as Evo did. It sounded like a good idea to keep him in power forever and change the Constitution. But all things have...
all good things come to an end.
Yes, they do. In this in the second quote, it says, that he forced the Constitution to stay in power. The Constitution of 2009, which he put forward, only allows for 2 presidential terms, 5 years each. 5 years, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And Evo has been president for almost 14 years. And he wanted to go in for another term, another 5 years. The Constitution simply cannot permit it. So Evo Morales organized a referendum, and he requested on February 21st of 2016 that the Constitution be changed. This all puts the crisis in context for you. This crisis started long ago. He forced the Constitutional Tribunal, and he had great influence over the tribunal, the Constitutional Tribunal that he forced. And the tribunal ended up deciding that they would prohibit Evo to have a 4th term because it would violate human rights. And the elections came about on October 20th, having a process that was plagued with irregularities, as one of the institutions of the Bolivian government determined. Evo negotiated with Luis Almagro, the Secretary General of that said institution that reported the irregularities during the voting process, to do a technical audit after their findings. Evo told him, he negotiated with him that they would audit themselves. We should have an audit with the promise that the results of the audit would be binding. So he won the presidency with protests from this institution called the OEA, that the votes weren't fair, that there was irregularities, that there was problems. And instead, of having a recall or whatever, they said they would do an audit, and that whatever the audit determined would be binding. And they would, if that means he had to be ousted from the presidency, so be it. So the audit was done by the OEA, and the results were very important. And there was a brutal chain of events riddled with irregularities in the voting process. Moments after this was reported, and Evo contacted the auditor's office saying, we're going to have new elections, and we're going to do this again, and we're going to have a new electoral tribunal. But it was already too late. The opposition to Evo Morales, led by a man named Fernando Camacho, said, that's not enough. And he asked the president to quit his job. Basically told him to step down, that he could not participate in new elections.
Yeah.
Evo had, run out the clock on all of his opportunities, and he had pressured a lot of people and institutions, and there was a lot of pressure coming back on his administration because of the fraud and of the irregularities. All of that caused the military to tell Evo that he should leave for his own safety.
Yeah.
Moments after that, the police came forward and said, Evo, you should go. You should quit right now. So he had no other option but to quit.
Yeah, okay.
That's how it went down. So far, your thoughts, Duke?
Oh, once again, I feel like I'm missing all the details. That was pretty quick. Now it makes sense with the trying to change the Constitution. Which it probably wasn't, from what I heard that reporter say, it probably wasn't the process, the actual amendment of the Constitution process. It was circumvented. It was something different that they would, and especially it came out that the voting was fixed. But for this to happen, I mean, we've had questions about our voting system, the Electoral College, and remember, in Florida with the hanging chads, with the voting machines. There's been irregularities in our voting turnout and different things like that. Hasn't led to the military deciding not to protect the president, have him quit, and get out of town, get him, send him out on the rail. That doesn't happen, and so it's like, I don't know, that story is packed so nice. It's like it went from this to this and this, and his time had run out. And it was time for him to move on. And he didn't set up any successors. He didn't prepare the country for a transition from him to try to keep the same principles, or to do that sort of stuff. He had just run out his clock, and it sounds just real one-sided that he was just in it for himself, and he's trying to hang on to power. And some part of the government decided he couldn't do that anymore, because it doesn't sound like the people rose up against him. It sounds like parts of the government rose up against him.
Well, technically under the Constitution, he's prohibited from another term. According to Article 168 of the Constitution of Bolivia, no Bolivian can have more than 2 terms as president.
Right.
And so here's the messed up part, Duke. So after the only way that he can leave the presidency officially is by his resignation, which he has penned and which has been made official.
Yep.
Okay. It is being taken to the Congress. So from this point forward, Article 169 goes into play, which details the line of succession. Problem is, the other 4 charges that were supposed to succeed him have all quit.
Oh.
So who takes power now? Evo Morales continues, therefore, to be the de facto president until Congress can approve.
Oh, a replacement.
His
successor.
No, his quitting. They have to approve the resignation.
Oh, okay.
And the Congress has not approved the resignation, so he's still the de facto president with no power.
Yep.
Once the vice president, the second vice president of the Senate of Bolivia, brings together Congress, calls together Congress again, there has to be half of the 176 legislators and senators, members of the House and members of the Senate, to approve the resignation of the president before it's official.
Wow.
If it's accepted, then from that point forward, the Congress will have to decide who could be the next president of Bolivia.
Huh.
And after that, a very complex constitutional process takes place because, times are against them. All of the charges that, positions that happened under these elections that are now being called into question, they don't run out until the 21st of January of 2020.
Oh, yeah.
So nothing is resolved. This is a very open,
He's still president,
fluctuating crisis in which we have nothing settled. And in Mexico, this confusion is happening amidst rallies of support for President Morales in Mexico City outside of the U.S. Outside of the Bolivian embassy. Here's a clip from that report as people are very confused and saying this is not a coup d'etat. There is no coup d'etat in Bolivia. Well, it's very true. We don't know exactly what's going on. Everything is up in the air. Here's a clip from that rally. The sign reads, "No coup d'etat in Bolivia." People are standing outside of the embassy.
Hola amigos de Noticias, me encuentro afuera de la embajada de Bolivia.
Hello friends, I am standing outside of the embassy to Bolivia.
En la Ciudad de México, donde el Comité Mexicano de
in the city of Mexico, where the Mexican Commission
Solidaridad con Bolivia
of Solidarity with Bolivia and other committees
otros colectivos se manifiestan
and
en
nonprofits
rechazo a lo que consideran un golpe de Estado
are protesting in rejection of what they consider a coup d'etat
contra el presidente Evo Morales.
of Evo Morales.
Hace unos momentos, el canciller Marcelo Ebrard dijo que el presidente Evo Morales había aceptado la invitación de asilo político.
A few moments ago, the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Marcelo Ebrard, made a statement, public statement, saying that Evo Morales had accepted the invitation of political asylum in Mexico,
ofrecido por el gobierno mexicano.
offered to him by the Mexican government.
Este asilo sería brindado por razones humanitarias.
This asylum would be granted for humanitarian reasons.
Y en virtud de la situación de urgencia en la que se enfrentaba Evo Morales en Bolivia.
And in response to the urgent situation of danger in which Evo Morales found himself in Bolivia,
su vida y su integridad corrían peligro.
where his life and his integrity were in danger.
Cabe mencionar también que esta mañana el canciller Marcelo Ebrard dijo que la
It is also important to recognize that this morning the Chancellor Marcelo Ebrard said
posición de México era reivindicar y
that Mexico's position is to revindicate and to
demandar el respeto al orden constitucional,
to demand order and respect to constitutional power
y la democracia en Bolivia.
and democracy in Bolivia,
Es decir, que México mantendría el reconocimiento al
which is to say that Mexico will continue to recognize
gobierno de Evo Morales
the governance of Evo Morales as president of Bolivia
hasta que termine su periodo legal.
until he finishes his legal term as president.
Agregó que Evo habría presentado una renuncia para evitar una guerra civil.
Adding that Evo had resigned his position as president to try to avoid a civil war
después de que el ejército lo hubiera presionado
after the military pressured him to do so,
para renunciar. Y
to resign.
Ebrard consideró los acontecimientos como un retroceso
And Ebrard considered these events as a regression
en la democracia para
to democracy
todo el continente.
for the whole continent.
Y bueno, pues como ya lo mencioné, me encuentro afuera de la embajada de Bolivia,
Reporting
en la Ciudad
from
de
the
México,
outside of the embassy of
donde
Bolivia in the
varios
city of
comités
Mexico,
se,
where a group of
reunieron
committees
para
and
manifestar su
organizations
rechazo a lo que consideran
are here to protest what they consider to be
un golpe de Estado.
a coup d'etat. As you can see, there are lots of different people holding signs. Most of the signs indicate that they don't want a coup d'etat. Okay. The Mexican government is recognizing President Morales until the end of his term, which, according to the article I just read to you, he is not constitutional or legal.
Yeah.
No Bolivian can serve more than 2 terms as president, according to the Constitution. So how is Mexico upholding the legality of a 3rd term under a president that is not under the Constitution legally? I'm confused.
Yeah. And the only thing that would make sense is that until Congress accepts his resignation, he's still president. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying that he'll remain president until the end of his term
in 2020.
Even though he resigned, and the military and the cops told him to get out of here, and he got asylum in Mexico. Mexico's still going to treat him like the president of Bolivia.
Mexico's going to treat him like the president of Bolivia. What does that mean?
Yeah.
He's going to preside as the president of Bolivia from
Mexico.
He's going to run Bolivia from Mexico? Listen, I'm not joking.
He's going to telecommute, computers,
Oh, they sent a plane down there for him. Mexico sent a plane down there for him. In this article from Milenio, it's incredible. It says, somebody posted this in a group called Nationalistic Mexicans Unite. It says, all we needed to do in addition to this was bring him mariachis. This is like they're rolling out the red carpet for Evo.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll give him a job in Mexican politics. Sad face emojis ×3.
Huh.
This dictator will be living off of our tax dollars. Angry face emojis, sad face emojis.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has got the headline from this Millennial article that says that the Mexican Air Force sent a plane to Lima, Peru, to pick up Evo Morales. By the way, in this article, it says that the Argentinian president is very happy that we are helping Evo Morales and that let's see. The president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez said that the president of Peru, Martín Vizcarra, had opened up the airspace in Peru so that they could fly the Mexican plane to Bolivia to go and search for Morales, who quit on Sunday, according because of the protest. Fernandez, again, president of Argentina, spoke at a book signing where he expressed his quote-unquote eternal gratitude to the president of Mexico for giving asylum to Evo Morales. And he expressed his gratitude toward the Paraguayan president, Mario Abdo, who had also said the Paraguayan doors were open to receive the president of Bolivia should he need asylum. So
everybody's offering, come on over here.
Exactly.
We'll take you.
Exactly. And these different presidents, we got the Argentinian president, the Paraguayan president, the Peruvian president. This for Latin America is behind this.
Yeah.
Latin America is here for it. And these presidents are here for this. They're here for the idea that he is, he should be taken care of. He should be protected, and that he needs asylum. And in a tweet that was just recently posted by Evo Morales himself, he says, "Brothers and sisters, I am en route to Mexico. Grateful to detach myself from this government of these people who are my brothers, who are giving me asylum to protect my life. I am sad to abandon the country of Bolivia because of political reasons, but I will always be watching, and I will quickly return with more force and more energy."
Uh-oh.
What does that mean, Duke?
He's amassing an army in Mexico.
I don't know what's going on.
Maybe other presidents will get asylum in Mexico too, and they'll start something. Who knows?
This is so strange. It's such a mess. It's and the way that Mexico is messaging about this is very complex and confusing.
Yeah.
Did Mexico offer the asylum? Did Evo request it? Did Evo cause his own coup? Is someone else behind the coup?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Is he president? Is he not president? Is he going to rule Bolivia from Mexico? What's going on? I don't know, but we will keep you updated here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Thank you for being with us. Happy Veterans Day and good night.
Oh.